Imagine for a second that you were sitting at your desk and you get a notification.
Okay.
It's a projection from Gardner. And it says that between 2025 and 2026, the adoption of AI agents is going to surge by an astonishing 340%.
Wow. Yeah, that is a massive jump.
Right. It's huge. So here is the challenge I really want you to sit with today.
Mm.
Are you ready to hand over your actual business workflows to an AI?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't mean an AI that, just drafts a polite email for you to review. I mean an AI that autonomously makes decisions. It reroutes your supply chains, manages vendor negotiations, and literally hits execute without waiting for your permission. Are you ready to hand over the keys?
That is the big question, isn't it?
Exactly. So today we're doing a deep dive into a really comprehensive stack of research. We've got that Gardner projection, the enforcement framework for the 2026 EU AI Act, and some fascinating technical blueprints from AetherLink.
Right, specifically focusing on their Aether Davy architecture.
Yeah, exactly. So our mission for this deep dive is to figure out exactly how European enterprises can, well, survive and thrive when AI stops merely generating text and starts aggressively executing corporate strategy.
Yeah, and I mean, it really is the defining operational challenge of this decade. It gets right to the heart of why this matters for European enterprises at this exact moment. We're basically witnessing a fundamental architectural shift in the technology landscape. We are moving completely out of the generative AI era.
Right, that sort of 2023 to 2025 window.
Exactly, where the focus was entirely on generating text or code or images, and we are fully entering the agentic AI era of 2026.
Yeah.
But for businesses in Europe, this explosion in autonomous task execution is on a direct, high-speed collision course with the enforcement phase of the 2026 EU AI Act.
Right, so the stakes have really shifted from just, theoretical productivity gains to existential corporate governance.
Exactly. Mastering this shift from reactive generation to proactive execution is no longer just some experimental tech upgrade for an isolated IT team. It is quite literally the difference between capturing a massive, scalable market advantage and facing catastrophic regulatory fines.
Wow.
Yeah, the technology has matured to the point where it can run the business, but the regulatory environment has simultaneously matured to the point where it will punish you severely if you can't prove exactly how the business is being run.
Okay, let's unpack this a bit.
Okay.
Because to understand those stakes, we need to completely separate the AI we've been using from the AI that's arriving right now.
Definitely.
Because the terminology shifts so rapidly, right?
Yeah.
For anyone evaluating enterprise tech, the line between generative AI and agentic AI can seem kind of blurry.
Yeah, people use them interchangeably, but they really shouldn't.
Right. Functionally, the difference is massive. A traditional large language model chatbot is fundamentally reactive. It just sits dormant.
It exists in a vacuum.
Exactly. Until a human user inputs a prompt, at which point it predicts a sequence of tokens, outputs a response, and goes right back to sleep.
Right. And that reactive state really limits the ROI. AI agents, on the other hand, operate on a completely different paradigm.
How so?
Well, they are software systems designed to continuously perceive their environment. They reason through complex problems, make real-time decisions, access external databases, and even collaborate with other agents to achieve a defined objective.
You don't prompt an agent step by step.
Exactly. You give an agent a goal, and it determines the execution path. It relies on a reasoning loop. It's often referred to as a React framework combining reasoning and acting.
Okay, react. Got it.
Yeah. So it observes the state of a system, reasons about what action to take next, executes that action via an API, observes the result of that action, and just repeats the loop until the goal is met.
It's like comparing a smart calculator to an autonomous project manager.
That is a perfect analogy, yes.
So we are moving from a tool that requires human micromanagement to a system that requires human microgovernance. And looking at the source material, the real-world applications of this are staggering.
Yeah.
I mean, organizations aren't using these systems just to draft marketing copy anymore.
No, not at all.
They have agents orchestrating complex, multi-platform social media campaigns. The agent monitors engagement metrics dynamically, reallocates ad spend in real time based on performance, and adjusts the target audience parameters. And it does all of this without a human ever logging into the ad manager.
Yeah, or consider supply chain logistics, which is where we're seeing some of the most aggressive deployments right now.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. An autonomous agent can monitor global weather patterns, port congestion APIs, and internal inventory databases simultaneously.
Wow, all at once.
Exactly. And if it calculates a high probability of a shipping delay for a critical component, it doesn't just send an alert to a dashboard for a human to read.
Right, it takes action.
Yes, it autonomously identifies a secondary vendor, queries that vendor's API for current pricing and stock, negotiates the purchase order within pre-approved parameters, and reroutes the logistics. That is wild.
It completely resolves the bottleneck before the human supply chain manager even logs on for the day.
So they are natively interacting with the company's entire digital nervous system, the CRM, the financial software, the proprietary databases.
Yep.
But, that instantly raises a massive infrastructural red flag for me.
Oh, absolutely.
Because if these agents are acting as autonomous employees with unfettered access to highly sensitive corporate data, they require immense computing power and deep data access. So if I am a CTO in Berlin or Paris, I cannot simply pipe all my highly sensitive corporate data, my customer financial records, or my proprietary supply chain logic through an API connection to some massive server sitting in California.
You absolutely cannot. And the enterprise market has fiercely course-corrected to reflect that reality.
Really?
Yeah. According to Eurostat data from 2025, 77% of European enterprises are now making AI sovereignty a core, non-negotiable requirement for procurement.
77%. That's a huge majority. It is. The vulnerability of relying on U.S.-dominated large language models, or LLMs, has just become mathematically and legally untenable for European operations.
Right, because you have geopolitical tensions that could sever access.
Exactly. Plus differing data privacy frameworks. And crucially, you lack ultimate cryptographic control over where your localized data physically resides when it's processed by a third-party cloud.
Yeah, that makes sense. And the strategic response from Europe on this front has been really fascinating to watch in the research.
It really has.
Because for a long time, the dominant narrative in tech was that massive Silicon Valley conglomerates had an insurmountable monopoly on the computational infrastructure required to train and run these models.
Right. The bigger is better mindset.
Exactly. But Europe hasn't tried to outspend the U.S. on generalized trillion parameter models.
Yeah.
Instead, the European ecosystem is aggressively pivoting towards small language models, or SLMs.
Yes, SLMs are the key here.
You look at companies like Mistral AI, based in Paris, building models explicitly designed for European enterprise deployment. They provide absolute guarantees about data locality and EU residency because the models can be run entirely on premises.
It's a highly pragmatic pivot. But, it does require a shift in how developers and CTOs think about model capability.
Well, yeah, because I look at the phrase small language models, and my immediate thought as an enterprise tech leader is, well, less capable.
Sure.
I mean, if an AI is running a multi-million euro supply chain or dynamically routing sensitive healthcare data, why wouldn't I want the most powerful, highest parameter model on the market making those decisions?
Because parameter count does not equate to domain-specific execution capability.
Okay, explain that.
This is where the mechanics of inference become critical. You do not need a massive model trained on all of 16th century French literature and quantum physics just to accurately route a logistics invoice or query in an internal SQL database.
Right, that's just overkill.
Exactly. You need a highly specialized, highly focused model. When you fine-tune an SLM on your specific proprietary corporate data, a 7 billion parameter model will routinely outperform a 1 trillion parameter generalized model on your specific business tasks.
Wow, really? Outperform?
Yes. And the investment world understands this mathematics perfectly. I mean, European AI startups recently raised 3.2 billion euros precisely because these SLMs solve the enterprise puzzle of balancing capability with control.
That's incredible. And beyond just data control, it fundamentally solves the latency and cost equations too, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Because the metrics in the research show that SLMs deliver 60 to 80% lower inference costs compared to massive cloud-based models.
Yeah, and when we talk about agents, inference cost isn't just a minor line item.
Right, because agents operate on that continuous reasoning loop we discussed earlier, thinking, acting, observing.
Exactly. So a single autonomous task might require the agent to make 50 or 100 internal LLM calls before it arrives at the final action.
Oh, wow. I hadn't thought about that multiplier.
It's huge. If you are running thousands of autonomous agents and each one is making thousands of sequential decisions a minute, Running that logic through a massive generalized LLM will completely bankrupt an IT department in API fees alone.
Yeah, that would be astronomically expensive.
Exactly. The cost structure of agentic AI just makes massive cloud models unviable for scaled internal operations.
Right.
But there is also the physical infrastructure limitation. The research highlights that SLMs use 10 to 100 times less energy to run.
10 to 100 times less.
Yes. So if you are a European enterprise operating under the strict sustainability mandates and green regulations of the EU, deploying massive LLMs for routine internal automation is not just financially prohibitive, it is environmentally non-compliant.
So SLMs are the strategic localized fix.
Precisely. They are mathematically cheaper, they execute rapidly on your own local servers, they guarantee data sovereignty, and they keep your corporate carbon footprint well within regulatory limits.
Okay, so SLMs solve the data sovereignty and energy issues. You have localized, highly efficient models driving these proactive, autonomous agents. The data is entirely safe on local servers. But, localizing the data doesn't absolve you of the outcome.
No, it certainly does not.
The moment a locally hosted agent actually executes a decision, like the moment it autonomously decides who gets approved for a mortgage, or it screens a resume for employment, or triages a medical file, we hit a massive regulatory wall.
Oh, yeah.
We aren't just talking about data privacy at that point. We are talking about profound organizational liability.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, this brings us directly to the enforcement of the 2026 EU AI Act.
Right.
The Act classifies AI systems into 4 distinct risk tiers: prohibited, high risk, limited risk, and minimal risk.
Okay.
And the architecture we're discussing, autonomous agents executing business logic, frequently falls right into that critical high-risk category, especially if deployed in regulated sectors like healthcare, finance, critical infrastructure, or employment.
And the penalties attached to that high risk here are severe. I mean, looking at the sources, we are talking about fines of up to 6% of a company's global revenue.
Global revenue, exactly.
Not local profit.
Yeah.
Global revenue. So for a multinational enterprise, a non-compliant agentic system represents a literal existential financial threat.
It does. However, what's really interesting is that the most successful enterprise leaders are entirely reframing this regulatory pressure.
How so?
Well, they aren't looking at the EU AI Act as a bureaucratic obstacle. They are utilizing proactive compliance as an aggressive competitive strategy.
Okay, I like that perspective.
Yeah. The Act demands mandatory human-in-the-loop controls, meaning the architecture must prevent an AI from executing critical decisions without verifiable human oversight.
Right.
Furthermore, it requires strict explainability. The AI system cannot operate as a black box. It has to be able to articulate the exact data provenance and reasoning chain behind any automated decision in human understandable terms.
And what really stuck out in the sources is that compliance isn't just a tax, it's a moat. Because by building these human-in-the-loop controls and explainability layers natively into the architecture, you're not scrambling to retrofit your code base when an auditor inevitably knocks on the door.
Right.
You're actually accelerating your market entry. You build immense customer trust because you can cryptographically prove your systems are safe and governed. And strategically, you attract top-tier AI engineering talent because elite developers don't want to build fragile rogue systems that might incur massive corporate liability. They want to engineer governed, state-of-the-art, compliant environments.
That is the crucial distinction between prototyping and enterprise production.
Yeah.
But bridging that gap from theory to reality requires very specific digital infrastructure. I mean,
Yeah.
how do you actually build a multi-agent ecosystem that utilizes local SLMs, operates highly autonomously, and satisfies the most stringent EU auditors without requiring a multi-year ground-up engineering effort?
Right. Theory is great, but how does the CPO actually do this? And this is where we really need to look at the Aether Davy framework.
Yes.
Which is the specialized development architecture created by AetherLink. To give you some context, AetherLink approaches enterprise AI through 3 integrated lenses. AetherMind handles the overarching corporate strategy, AetherBot deploys the actual frontline agents, and Aether Davy provides the underlying compliant technical architecture. And to build multi-agent workflows that are compliant by design, the Aether Davy blueprints emphasize 2 foundational technical pillars: AVARE and MCP.
Yeah, let's examine the mechanics of those pillars because their function completely changes when you apply them to autonomous agents.
Okay, let's do it.
So CTOs and developers are already highly familiar with AI retrieval augmented generation.
Right.
Historically, it has been used to ground a chatbot's answers in proprietary data just to prevent hallucinations. The model is forced to retrieve specific, verified company documents from a vector database before generating text.
Like giving the AI an open book test.
Exactly. But in a multi-agent architecture, RI does something else entirely. It acts as your definitive compliance audit trail.
Oh, interesting.
Because when an agent is executing a task, it isn't just generating a summary, it's making a decision. And because the Aether Davy architecture forces the agent to rely exclusively on the verified vector database for its operational context, you automatically generate an immutable log of exactly which internal document, policy, or data point triggered the agent's action.
So the system doesn't just show what the agent did, it shows the precise textual evidence the agent used to justify doing it.
Yes, and that provides the explainability the EU AI Act demands.
Right.
But explainability is only half the battle. The other half is operational control. That is where MCP, or Model Context Protocol servers, become the critical infrastructure.
Okay, let's talk about MCP.
If RAG provides the verified information, MCP provides the verified boundaries.
Got it. So MCP essentially functions as an advanced API gateway, specifically designed for AI agents.
Exactly.
When an autonomous agent decides it needs to execute a function, say updating a customer record in the CRM or initiating a wire transfer, it cannot just execute the code directly.
No, absolutely not.
The MCP server sits between the agent's reasoning engine and your enterprise databases. It intercepts the agent's request, validates the agent's cryptographic permissions against your strict, hard-coded business logic, and only allows the specific database touch that has been explicitly pre-approved for that specific agent. It ensures total transparency and absolute access control.
It guarantees that an agent designed to analyze data cannot suddenly decide to delete data or alter financial records. By combining RG for explainability and MCP for access control, the Aether Davy framework creates an environment where autonomy and governance coexist natively.
To make this incredibly concrete, the sources provided a really detailed breakdown of a mid-sized Dutch healthcare provider that utilized this exact Aether Davy framework.
Oh, yeah, this is a great case study.
Yeah. So they faced an overwhelming backlog in regulatory compliance monitoring, which is obviously a high-stakes environment where a single error can trigger severe legal consequences.
Right.
They deployed a multi-agent system, which means they didn't just build one massive AI to do everything. They deployed a team of specialized SLM-powered agents working in a coordinated ecosystem.
And the architectural design of that specific deployment is a masterclass in enterprise AI strategy.
It really is.
They utilize 3 distinct agents. First, the document analysis agent.
Okay.
This agent had one highly specialized restricted function, autonomously scanning incoming unstructured medical records and cross-referencing them against the hospital's RAG-enabled policy database to identify potential compliance violations or data quality anomalies.
So imagine a scenario where a complex patient file is ingested, and the document analysis agent spots a contradictory dosage history deep in the unstructured notes. It calculates that the anomaly falls outside the standards compliance parameters. But it doesn't just fix the file. Instantly, the second agent in the system, the escalation agent, freezes that specific workflow. It packages the entire context of the anomaly, along with the specific policy documents flagged by the first agent, and routes it directly to a secure dashboard for a human physician or compliance officer to review.
And this is where the genius of the multi-agent design becomes apparent.
Yeah.
Because while all of this is happening, the third agent, the audit trail agent, is operating entirely in the background.
Just watching.
Exactly. Its sole purpose is to observe the actions of the document analysis agent and the escalation agent. It generates time-stamped, immutable, cryptographic logs of every single reasoning step.
Wow.
It logs exactly which vectors the first agent pulled to identify the dosage anomaly, the exact millisecond the escalation agent froze the workflow, and ultimately the exact human input when the physician reviews the dashboard and clicks approve or reject.
So the auditor doesn't have to guess how the AI came to its conclusion, because the system is permanently logging its own reasoning chain while strictly enforcing the human-in-the-loop requirement.
Precisely.
And the results from this Dutch healthcare case study are a definitive proof of concept for the agentic AI era. By deploying this specific Aether Davy multi-agent architecture, Their manual compliance review time dropped by 65%.
That's massive.
The accuracy of identifying regulatory violations actually increased, hitting 99.2%, and the financial ROI is undeniable. The operational cost per audit dropped precipitously from €450 down to just €120.
Yeah, but the most vital metric for any CTO or enterprise leader evaluating this case study is this. They achieved that massive efficiency gain while maintaining full EU AI Act compliance.
Right.
During their external audit, there were 0 regulatory findings. 0.
That's incredible.
Because they did not treat compliance as an afterthought to be layered onto a massive, opaque LLM. They embedded explainability, strict MCP access controls, and immutable audit trails directly into the localized SLM architecture right at the design stage.
Which brings us to the core synthesis of our deep dive today. So what does this all mean? If we distill all of this research, from the Gardner projections down to the granular API controls, the overriding takeaway is this. The era of AI merely generating text is definitively over.
Yeah.
We are firmly operating in the era of AI executing tasks. Organizations must shift their mental models and overhaul their digital infrastructure to support secure, localized, multi-agent ecosystems. If you are still treating AI as a sophisticated calculator while your competitors are deploying autonomous project managers, you will be systematically out-executed in the market.
That operational shift is inevitable, and my primary takeaway focuses on the intersection of that technology and regulation.
Okay.
This raises an important question, right? In 2026, governance is no longer a bureaucratic speed bump. Through purpose-built frameworks like Aether Davy and the strategic deployment of highly efficient small language models, governance is actually the central engine driving sustainable, scalable enterprise AI. Rigorous compliance architecture isn't slowing your organization down. It's the necessary infrastructural guardrail that allows you to automate highly complex workflows at maximum speed without losing control of the vehicle.
It's like the brakes on a high-performance race car.
Exactly.
They don't exist to make you drive slowly. They exist so you can confidently take the corners at maximum velocity without crashing.
That's a great way to put it.
Before we wrap up, I want to leave you, the listener, with a final concept to mull over as you prepare to hand over the keys to your internal workflows. As we scale into a global economy where your company's highly compliant, localized, autonomous AI agents begin interacting and negotiating in real time with your vendors' and competitors' AI agents. What happens when two perfectly governed, logic-bound systems interact in a novel environment?
Wow.
They might autonomously generate a completely unpredictable emergent business strategy. And when two autonomous enterprise systems invent a hyper-efficient, entirely new method of executing a supply chain or financial transaction that no human developer ever explicitly programmed or anticipated, who's ultimately accountable for the outcome.
That is going to be the next frontier.
For more AI insights, visit etherlink.ai.